"51 years ago, the crash of this plane shocked the entire world, as it became known as the greatest miracle of the world. That's what we're going to talk about in today's video, the tragedy of the Andes, the mysterious Flight 571. So, you'll get to know what happened in this tragedy, what the miracle was, and much more. Let's go back to October 13, 1972, when the Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 was en route from Montevideo, Uruguay, to Santiago, Chile. The plane was carrying 45 people, including a rugby team, some friends, and family members. However, during the journey, due to a storm, they had to make a stop in Argentina, where they spent the night. The next day, despite the unstable conditions, they decided to proceed with the flight. The plane took off, but just a few minutes later, it crashed in the Andes Mountains. Some say the crash occurred after the plane lost both wings when it hit a mountain, while others claim the plane had to make a forced landing after encountering severe turbulence. After numerous investigations, it was concluded that the exact cause of the crash was a human error by the co-pilot, Dante Luraro. According to the analysis, the co-pilot mistakenly believed they were closer to the airport than they actually were, leading to an early attempt to land, exacerbated by the storm. This resulted in the tragic accident, claiming the lives of 12 people instantly. Trapped amidst the snow during a storm, they weren't immediately rescued. Over the following days, another 17 people perished due to extreme cold, injuries, and lack of food. This led to the incident being known as the Andes tragedy. But where's the miracle we mentioned at the beginning of the video? The miracle lies in the fact that out of the 45 people on board, 16 survived and were eventually rescued. These 16 individuals endured 72 days in the freezing cold, having to survive under extreme, inhumane conditions at an altitude of 3,000 meters. With temperatures dropping to 30 degrees Celsius at night, they had no food, supplies, or medicine. To survive, they had to resort to unthinkable measures, including cannibalism. One of the survivors, cardiologist Roberto Canessa, who was only 19 at the time, recounted how they initially survived on chocolate bars and sweets found in the passengers' luggage. But when the food ran out, they resorted to eating anything they could find, including shoe soles, rubber, cigarettes, and toothpaste. It was a desperate struggle for survival, with no certainty of rescue. As days passed without food, someone uttered the chilling words, "I think I'm going crazy because I'm considering eating the bodies." It wasn't madness. It was sheer desperation for survival. In such dire circumstances, they had no choice but to do whatever it took to endure. But the only alternative left for them was to resort to consuming the corpses. As if that wasn't terrible enough, there was an even more difficult aspect. Practically everyone there knew each other. They were relatives, friends, they played together, including the rugby team. So imagine that besides having to resort to cannibalism, they also had to feed on the flesh of people they knew, friends, the body of a coach, a relative, a son. It's heavy stuff. According to Canessa, the young survivor, at first people were struggling not to eat the bodies, but by then they had already eaten everything, including the plane seats, not metal, but the leather seats, and even the old foam. But hunger fills the belly, right? Everyone there joined together and opted for survival, surrendering to eating their comrades. The situation was so critical that if they didn't feed on human flesh, they wouldn't have survived. At the time, many criticized their actions, for God's sake. What inhumane thing, how could you do that, and so on. Cannibalism, eating people you know. But then I ask you, if you were in their place, what would you do? Comment below. We're not talking about simply grabbing anyone and killing them to satisfy hunger. We're talking about a situation where they had no choice. Another thing that helped their survival was the knowledge some people had there, which greatly aided in saving the group. For example, survivor Roy Harley, who was 20 at the time and was already studying engineering, because of his knowledge, he managed to connect a radio to the plane's battery, So they could hear the news about their own disappearance and know how the searches were going, which gave them a little more comfort, like, we're not forgotten. But the problem was that 10 days after the plane crash, through the radio, they heard that the searches had already been called off. Oh my God. Then despair set in again. At that time, authorities thought everyone had died, so since they had the radio and knew no one was looking for them anymore, they needed to do something, or they'd all kick the bucket right there. So at that moment, they decided they had to stop waiting and start acting somehow. The only way out was to climb the mountains and seek help. So right there, the survivors prepared for weeks and chose two of the most capable people to undertake this mission to seek help, Fernando Parrado and Roberto Canessa. On December 12th, the two began their trek in search of help. After 9 days of walking, they managed to find a person, the mule driver Sergio Catalan, and they met near the isolated village of Los Maitenes in Chile. With that, upon learning about the accident and the survivors, Sergio, the man they found, rode for 10 hours to the Puerto Alto commune in Chile to alert and seek help. Wow, the guy rode for 10 hours to save them. How cool. And it was only after 72 days from the accident that the 16 survivors were rescued. Several days later, after the authorities had already concluded the case, considering everyone dead, but luckily, everything turned out fine. First, a helicopter was sent to rescue Parrado and Canessa, who were 9 days away from the group, and then other teams were sent to rescue everyone at the survivors' camp. On December 23, 1972, everyone had been rescued. So this story, folks, remained known as the miracle of Flight 571, because in a plane crash, it's already rare to have survivors, and in this flight there were 16 survivors who managed to endure for 70 days atop a mountain in conditions we can't even imagine, enduring cold, hunger, despair, even resorting to eating rubber and even relatives. Another thing is they received news that they wouldn't be rescued anymore. Imagine the despair, folks, but thankfully they didn't give up. And in the end, everything turned out fine. This story is so touching, so grandiose, that it has inspired several movies, series, and even books. For example, the 1993 movie Alive, which was inspired by the Andes tragedy. In fact, Netflix announced the release of the movie The Society of Snow, a film based on the book written by one of the survivors, Roberto Canessa, which premiered in Spain in December 2023 and will be available on the platform for everyone in January 2024. And you know what, folks? Just to wrap up, as this was truly a miracle, one of the survivors, a guy named Roy, who was 180 meters tall when he was rescued, he weighed only 37 kilograms. He was nothing but skin and bones. Imagine a person who's 180 meters tall weighing 37 kilograms. Roy says the accident changed his life in a positive way because he considers himself very lucky to have survived. Carlos Paez, another survivor, another warrior, said he doesn't see the accident as a tragedy, something negative because in the end, despite all the difficulties, life managed to prevail. That's how we should think, folks. Appreciate each day after the other because whether we like it or not, just being alive and talking is a miracle. And also to never give up because if they had given up, they would have just stayed there and frozen on the mountain. And then it would have become just a story of tragedy and not of a miracle. And that's it, folks. Did you like today's video? Did you like this story? A very heavy, sad story, but at the same time, a story of overcoming. An incredible story, practically a miracle. Leave your like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, watch another video, or wait for the next one. It'll be out soon. We're wrapping up here, folks. Thank you very much for watching.